I wish to take this opportunity to wish all Ghanaian women a special day. Greetings for all our hard work. Congratulations that we should also continue to work as hard as we have always done, that we will be given the opportunity to work and take our place in Ghanaian society as the men of this country have done.
There never should be an issue of, well, you did well given that you're a girl. You know, you did well, and there's another girl who did better, and you know, but you also, you know, did great. I always said that I didn't see it, I didn't feel it in Ghana. I never felt that there was an obstacle certainly in my life, in what is a male-dominated sector, banking and investment banking, because I moved out of my law and investment law into banking for a time there. I always said no, I didn't feel there was an obstacle. I'm head of a department in EcoBank, and that was, I didn't sort of rise through the ranks. That was the job I was offered, and a similar job at Cal. But over time, a couple of people, women said to me, well, and men said, you know, sometimes there is that glass ceiling. Some women are seeing it in sectors in the country. And a male journalist said to me, said, the reason you feel you've never seen it is because you don't have it in your mind. You do not have that ceiling. You don't feel that there's any barrier, and therefore, how, if you were sitting in an interview with some, would they even try to say, well, we want to offer you this job, head of department, but you're going to earn less than the two other heads of department who are male. I don't think we have the same obstacles as people in the United States, for example, but it does also stem from one's own belief, from feeling that I can do this job as well as anybody else. If there's a job that I can't do, it's because I can't do it. It's because I'm not qualified, not because I'm a woman.
Because gender issue is all around it. It is a development issue. It is a peace and security issue. Because of this, excluding gender issue as a side is, it is a danger for the development, for the peace and security.
And so your girl child and your boy child have equal rights, equal opportunities by the Constitution. Let us educate our young ones to embrace equality, and that this Ghana belongs to all of us, men and women alike. We are not less to them, we are not inferior, neither are they superior. As Adam and Eve came to this world, we are together to complement the roles of one another to develop this country.
In the beginning, the middle, and the end of all development process for me, women is that one who has a baby. She has to talk to the baby. From his younger age till he's growing, he can understand that. We used to say in my country, a child is for everybody, but his 2 years are for his mom. So talking always about peace, necessity of peace in the country, I think began by women. If you have security in the house, you can get security in the environment, security in the village, security in the community, and security in the country. So women, it's very important in this process.
All right, so just going by some views on International Women's Day. Straight back to the studio, let's begin from the near side. And let me ask you, what's the significance of today for you? That's actually to you.
Thank you very much. Today is a day that has been set aside by the United Nations for us to celebrate women. We're looking at our contributions towards development in society in general, and also taking a second look at some of the things that still inhibit our forward march towards contributing our full potential to ensure there is sustainable development. I believe that both men and women have unique roles to play in society. And if one of the two sexes is being prevented, sometimes in very subtle ways, from bringing to bear their God-given special potentials towards the benefit of humankind, then we have a problem. And so a day like this is set aside for us to say, yes, we have done something, but no, still, we have gaps, and we need to work towards them. The UN has put in place so many protocols, and I just want to pick on one, the Millennium Development Goals. There are 8 in all, and from goal 1 to the end, if you do a critical analysis of what the issues are, you see that women somehow bear the brunt of the negative effects of, if it has to do with poverty, if it has to do with health issues, if it has to do with education, and all of them. You see that women still have problems. And until we come together as men and women to tackle the issues, to ensure that poverty is curbed, to ensure that both men and women are given the opportunities to be educated, to ensure that both men and women are able to decide on issues affecting them in life, to ensure that when it comes to health issues, especially maternal mortality, we do something about it. Because where would the men be if all the women who will give birth to them die? There will be no men. So we need to handle such things. And in Africa, it's still a serious issue. Ghana is also the same. We need to talk about it when you have HIV/AIDS. There are differential impacts on both men and women when it comes to that one too. And when it comes to caring even for the sick and so on, you see that there are differential impacts. So we ought to pay particular attention to how issues of life impact on men and how it impacts on women. That way, we'll be addressing concerns of humankind in a peculiar way, and issues or developments will be sustainable. We don't need to put a blanket on issues of life.
Interesting. How does our topic of contemporary womanhood actually feed into the day we are celebrating today, being International Women's Day? How does that play out?
I think it's important to look at the woman of today. So when you say contemporary womanhood, that is what I think we are looking at. Right. And if we say International Women's Day, who is that woman that we are talking about? It's the career woman, it's the rural woman, it's that woman that you find in the cosmopolitan areas, and that woman that you find in the village. It's the woman who is standing on the political platform. It's that woman who is in the kitchen, the woman who is in the corporate sector, and the woman who is in the market. So it's important. You are looking at womanhood in its totality and looking at it in the contemporary setting and the world that we find ourselves in today, and to see how far this woman that we are talking about in all the different facets of life has developed, and whether she has been given that opportunity to make a contribution to the development of her society. So that is how it fits, because it's important. And the theme for this year is actually looking at girls, connecting girls and inspiring futures. So it's looking at womanhood from that stage as well, and looking at how important it is, because the girl of today is the woman of tomorrow. So yeah, that's how it fits. I think it's an apt topic for us to consider, because the contemporary woman faces different challenges in some ways from the woman of 100 years ago or 50 years ago.
Marian, so what are some of the challenges that a contemporary woman faces? Why is this such a topic for us in today's Ghana?
You have to consider the different contexts in which the contemporary woman operates. More women are finding themselves in the labor market. They are working long hours. The family of today lives further away from the traditional family or the close-knit family who can provide support to such a woman. You're looking at the global context. You're looking at financial issues. You're looking at challenges relating to siting of facilities that can complement the sorts of activities they find themselves in: hospitals, schools, and markets and such other amenities. So depending on who you are focusing on, then you'll be able to identify that range of challenges they are facing. Yeah.
So who do you think we really should be focusing on? Because that won't be very easy. Because as Nana Sancho said, it's a wide gamut of women, depending on where you are looking at. But I'm sure there will always be that common thread that runs through for everybody. And that also makes it easy for us then to begin to identify the issues that touch and affect every woman, irrespective of which society they belong, with part or society or economic activity or political life or whatever that they belong to. And perhaps I should come over to Joanna and ask you, can we begin to address the problems? Can we begin to address the issues? In Ghana today, what are the things we should be concentrating on? What are the things that we see? Where are the challenges? How do we break them down?
Thank you very much. Before I go on to address that, may I join my earlier colleagues in congratulating every woman.
Okay.
We have really done well, but I must say there should be more grease to our elbows. There is still a lot more to do. I'm happy to say that in Ghana, we are about meeting the target of the Millennium Development Goals when it comes to primary education. We're just about 0.02 thereabouts away from, achieving that goal. And if I pick on that, it has a lot of impact on our lives in general. A few years back, you didn't have such a thing happening. You had a lot of girls dropping out of school because of issues like infrastructure, because of issues like some parents not actually understanding why the girl child must go to school and so on. There's been a lot of education. People now understand, so the girl is going to school. It has implications for even infrastructure, development, the universities, and so on. If you look at Legon now, we have more of women's halls or halls of residence that take on board women, as compared to the past when Volta plus Mensa Saba Hall were the only halls that were taking women. So there is something to do. Now we have all these young ones coming out, and then you are looking at their job, their security, and so on. You're also looking at even the boys and how the increase in the number of girls who are now educated, who now know their rights, and so on, impacts on their relationships in the home, in the workplace, and so on. To what extent are even the boys also being brought on board to understand that it is not about competition, it's about complementarity, so that we are able to move forward in our development efforts. Right. There are issues even also in the home. What happens when I'm now a woman who is not just a housewife, but I'm a career woman? I go out, come back, and I have to look after the children, still with the men not coming on board that much to know that things have changed. So they should also help a lot in looking after the children, the homework, the cooking, the washing, and so on. So we need to discuss this for people to understand that as things change, as the technological era advances, we ought to change with it, whether you are a man or you are a woman. We need the men to understand that the issue about gender and women's empowerment is not something against them. It's rather enhances their issues in life, because no educated woman, no empowered woman will sit down and allow his or her son or daughter to sit at home and rot, the husband to go down the valley. When she's empowered, she ensures that the whole home and the society around her benefits from such a thing. And I think that is why Agri long ago said that when you educate a woman, you educate a whole nation. So there are a whole gamut of things that will benefit us when we look at gender equality, women's empowerment, and what it is all about. It is ensuring that that person who has, for some interesting cultural, patriarchal, whatever you call it, economic reason, has been disadvantaged, is now brought on board to be able to bring their potentials to bear on society for the benefit of all. Right. And this is what it is all about. Okay.
Marian, I'm coming right back to you sooner than I think you anticipated. and to ask you, do we really have impediments in the way of women in Ghana to prevent them from doing what men do, really, looking around? Are there any impediments? You and I were in Legon. We did everything. Everything I could do, you could do. Nana Santos was my senior in Achimota. Everything I could do, she could do. Well, and when I went to Legon, the girls who got a worse aggregate than I did, simply because we were girls, gained admission, whilst my friends who didn't could not go in there. I'm not saying that because of that. Well, I'm not providing an answer for you, but I'm saying that these are some of the views out there. People think that so aggregate, it's cut off is aggregate 8, yet it's 9 for girls. There are more girls perhaps in some places than others. In Achimota, look at what the McCarthy House is now a girls' house. It's the biggest house on the Eastern compound.
You need to look at how many boys' houses there are.
All right, but they're taking one away from the boys and all that. And again, that there's really, are there any particular things that will prevent anybody from becoming what they want to be? As a matter of fact, any woman, so to speak. I'm sure someone will say in the past, this seat is reserved for men. Newsfile is a leading program. Matilda Santi is a lady. She hosts it and all that. I'm sure these are not things that ordinarily would happen in the past. It had to be a man's world. Is it still the same today?
You see, Robert, if you look at the statistics and you see how many women we have in the country, we form majority of the population. Sure. So when we are just, sprinkling women here and there and seeing 2-3 pairs of, women around rising through the ranks, it is not a true reflection of our representation, as citizens in this country. Right. So you ask yourself, why? Obviously, if equal opportunities are given to people across board, we don't have a problem. Then people will, achieve to make it. I believe that we are all given the same abilities. We are born with the same abilities. But then, apart from being born with them, the community, the society in which you find yourself, your upbringing, whether you are in a wealthy family or come from a poor family, in the rural area or the urban area, can affect those abilities you've been given. And then you ask yourself, what are some of these things that could impede a woman's ability or impede her progress? Right. We start with the most basic one being a traditional context in which we find ourselves. Going to issues relating to socialization, where the woman is brought up to believe that her role is to be subservient to the male, where because of gender stereotyping, we see that even where both the boy and the girl are in school, the girl is unevenly burdened when it comes to house chores or work that has to be done. When it comes to financial difficulties, and the difficult decision has to be made that who stays home and who goes to school. More often than not, the decision will be for a girl to stay home and for a boy to go to school. So yes, 1 or 2 women are rising through the ranks, but if you look at the mindset of the society, it's still the same. And as Auntie Joanna said, as things are changing, we're in the technological age, roles are changing, but the definitions of those roles still remain the same. So you find more women in the labor market or more women working, but when they come back home, they are still performing those traditional roles. Okay. There was a reason for these things in the past, because the men were those who went out to work, and then the women had these traditional roles. Now you have a situation where more women are bringing in even more money than their partners, but then they are still unevenly burdened. Why? How does that work out? Because then the situation or the issue is, I am helping you. If we are looking at roles, I am helping you do your job. So why don't you also help me do mine? You look at that. We look at, like within the formal and informal sector. Within the formal sector, look at how the setup is in terms of appointments, in terms of how many women are able to make it, how many women take part in decision making. You ask yourself why. People say that women are not qualified, there aren't any qualified women out there. But then when it comes to choosing a male or a female, what is the tendency, or where do people lean towards.
Let me
More
take a
often
quick
than not,
commercial
they
break.
assume.
Let me take a quick commercial break. When I come, I'll let you commence our second segment briefly, and then I'll move on to another center on this matter. And I'll also be throwing back those examples that we gave to you about Speaker of Parliament, Chief Justice, and all of those things. And those are powerful positions.
I won't take,
I
won't take those examples.
Ladies to be a lot more reliable in everything that they do. Honest, reliable, of course, so long as you don't step on the wrong foot. So, madam, I believe this country will be better off if ladies are given an opportunity to make their contribution. But what is sad is the fact that ladies who try to make it, all sorts of impediments are put in their ways.
This year's focus is on girls, and it's interesting that they use these words: connecting girls, inspiring the future, or inspiring futures. This means that if we are able to interact with our girls, if we are able to reach out and touch our girls by holding their hand to aspire higher, to achieve their ambitions, if we are able to mentor our girls effectively, if we are able to stand as good role models to our girls, if we are able to encourage and nurture our girls, they will grow up to be very responsible women in our society.
I also want to salute all the women who've given birth, who are preparing to give birth under very risky circumstances. Women in many of our districts where our hospitals don't, some of which do not have ambulances. We want to salute all women, all young girls who go to school, who make sure they don't miss school, even at certain periods of the month, in schools where sanitation is inadequate or almost non-existent.
Thank you for staying with us, and that view we can get here. So, so we'll hold on to that one. And Marian, just so you complete that point, our constitution says that in descending order, the positions in Ghana in descending order in terms of most powerful are president, and those are the words of the constitution, descending order.
Yes.
Vice president, Speaker of Parliament, yes. Chief Justice, in that order. Number 3 and number 4 are women. And beyond it, two very important constitutional bodies, NCC and SHRAJ, are headed by women. You indicated to me before I took the break that you will not accept those, you don't accept what the argument about those positions, but those are facts.
They are facts, and I feel.
And until recently, it had never happened in Ghana.
Yes, I know, but I feel very sad when people use these appointments as arguments to say that we've met the targets.
No, it says that we're making progress.
We are making progress.
That's what I've heard.
So you ask yourself if, keeping in mind that the Speaker of Parliament is really a political appointment, you know, and
yeah, it's always been,
you know, other
yes,
and other such appointments. The question is, if this person is not there, how many women have been educated, empowered, and are in those, you know, areas where they could rise to that level?
But electing
how many
one
women
is
do you
the
find
president
there?
and vice president. That one, no one can force you to go there.
I know.
No one can also make it easy for you.
Yes.
But somebody must appoint you to be speaker.
Yes.
And someone has done that.
It still doesn't satisfy well for me.
You want the
and
president?
For most, it's not about being president, and it's not about being the head of an institution.
Okay.
You are looking at the collective representation across board in various sectors. How many women do we have in parliament? How many women are...
And those are elective positions.
Yes, they are elective positions.
What do you want us to do?
We were talking about impediments. How you ask yourself, if we are equal or we are given the same opportunities, why don't we have that many women there?
Maybe you should
It's
tell
because of the obstacles.
Okay. What are the obstacles preventing women? Let me move on to another center now. What are the obstacles that we have? Why don't we have as many women in parliament as we ordinarily would have loved to have? I don't know Yeleta, who has been on this program a number of times and said that for her, the first past the post system in itself is a problem, and that proportional representation, etc., may be a better way out and all of that, calling for constitutional reform. But really, What are the impediments in the way of women from getting to parliament? In the 60s, we know Nkrumah tried to do something where, as a matter of course, we had a certain number that will go in there, whatever happened. That was some form of affirmative action.
Yes.
But in today's Ghana, what prevents Marian from becoming member of parliament?
There was a reason why Nkrumah did that. Because if he hadn't done that, you will not have that number of women in parliament. And the question, to answer the question you asked, take any typical woman in Ghana. She wants to stand for a political party position. She has to go through the... Once she even declares that she's standing, she becomes a politician and she wants to stand for... You immediately have this attack. You do not get the support unless you... Of course, if she's married, she needs the support of her husband. She needs the support of... For most women, she needs family support as well. And
you don't think that the men need that?
Well,
I can't see myself declaring doing that without my wife's support.
The men need it, but they can do it without. Many men can do it without. If their wives don't support them, they can still go ahead. And society will not blink. But it's not the same for women. She needs that support. And when she gets there, on the political party platform, all sorts of things are thrown at her. She's a prostitute. She has, I mean, gone through, done several things for her to be able to get to that position. And she is not given the opportunity to be able, once she's expressing herself, she's disrespectful. So for many assertive women, because they're able to express themselves confidently, they are said to be disrespectful. Because in our society, a woman should not talk like that. So she gets, she gets all these challenges on the political party platform. So it's very difficult. Then it comes to the financial issue. The moneytocracy, as some people call it, that our politics has become now. It's money. You have to pump in a lot of money.
What makes a man have more money than a woman? For MP. Especially since Marian is telling me that these days the women are bringing more home.
Well, yes, for some kinds of jobs. But for many women, they do not have they do not even have the kind of assets. I mean, if you are talking about land, for example, I mean, we can go back to our culture. Culturally, many women do not inherit when you are looking at land and looking at that kind of property. So women do not own themselves property. And so to even get the financing, even if they want to go for a bank loan, they're asking for a collateral. For many women, they do not have this. They do not have that kind of, and the women, the sectors...
So that if what, I will need to understand that, sorry, about women not owning land and it also being a cultural issue. Because I know a lot of women who own land.
Yes.
In my line of work, I do a lot of agreements for women who are owners of land and property and all of that.
Yes.
All the time. And if a man has children, girls, or even a number of them, he can pass his, he doesn't pass his things on to...
He can pass it on to them.
And even custom...
If you are, it's a will.
Yeah.
But if you are looking at customary law, and you are looking, depending, of course, it's not all the customs, but many of our customs
don't allow women to own property.
Women to inherit, to
inherit property
yes,
from their parents, from their spouses,
from land.
Land.
Yes.
It has to go to a man.
It has to go to a man. I mean, if you look, for example, the matrilineal system, it may pass through the matrilineal line, like but it has to be the sister's son.
Okay.
For example, so these are some of the cultural impediments. Okay, the woman can work on the land. Okay, but if you talk about who owns it and who can actually pass on title, for many women, they do not have that.
My grandmother, she's almost 100. She owns a lot of land. Plenty, including cocoa farms, etc. I hope she has she never bought it. She inherited it from her father.
So obviously, if she had to go into politics, she wouldn't have a problem.
That's what I'm trying to. No, that's my Akrapim side, which people will be hearing for the first time.
Yes, but you have to ask what kind of what's the land. So there are certain, but for many, they don't own it. I'm talking. I mean, I'm just looking at the facts.
I'm not disputing what you're saying, but I'm just saying that sometimes the cultural situation may not be true for everybody.
No, but like I said, it's not the same. But you have to look at it, take the global picture. And so for many women, they don't have that capital, they don't have the money. And yes, some men may not have it, but they may have friends, networks.
But don't women have friends? You see, I'm just being the devil's advocate here.
No, that's
but
true.
I'm just trying to find out how that example, the examples you're giving don't apply to men. They standing on the platform bit, having things said about you against you, owning property, whether patrilineal or matrilineal. And I think the majority of the ethnic groups in Ghana are patrilineal if you put it together. It's true that Ashanti largely is matrilineal, but Ashanti is less than 50% of the total population of Ghana. Most of the rest put together are patrilineal. Up north, down south, Ghana, etc., all those places are largely patrilineal people. And if Olenu is to be believed, there are even some Ashanti areas where they are patrilineal, if he is to be believed. And all that. So that may be a situation that we see. But I'm saying that don't men face the same problems? Men,
it's not the same as women. And even leaving the cultural issue, I mean, yes, that is definitely one. I'm talking about owning property. But you also have many more women in the informal sector, for example. Some of them have money, but many of them don't. For the women, the 80% or so who are doing subsistence farming and actually feeding this country, they are not the ones in the cash, doing the farming that brings the money. So many women do not have that kind of money to push into politics, the exchange of ideas, you know. So that is definitely one of the things that they face. Then you come also to even the way our politics is organized, the violence. In Ghana, I would say that it's there, but thankfully it's not as bad as it is in some of our sister countries, you know. But women still have to, and then some of the political party meetings. For example, you have a woman with a family and having a meeting, you know, midnight meetings. And so there are so many issues, so many things that affect women who want to stand, you know, and go into politics.
This one says, hi, Nii, the topic you are discussing is good, but the sensitization must be intensified in schools to achieve this objective. Okay, so we have to go to the schools to achieve this. Constant Tobacco in Hohoi says, Nii, make sure your panelists don't disorganize God's arrangement for mankind. The man is the head and shall forever remain so. You have your head in capital letters and your soul with a number of O's. All right, thank you, Constant. That's your view, but my ladies in the studio are really laughing at what you're saying.
There is no head without a neck.
All right. Happy Peter Terrier says, Nii, I appreciate the women in your studio today. What are their plans towards our mothers in the villages and those in government? Okay, we'll get them to comment on it, so you can note it down if you want to comment. And then Constantine Hohoi again says, Nii, when women are given certain high positions in society, they tend to be wicked towards their own fellow women. Okay, so one of the questions I have here for mine as to whether women are their own enemies. We'll find out what the response is to that in a bit. If I can move on to the next one. Okay, we've read this already. Let's see which other one I have here. Becky Afari says, I would like to use this platform to appeal to all men who have been abusing women in so many ways to put a stop to it. Offenders must be brought to book. Happy Women's Day. And I think the emphasis is on in so many ways. People just tend to think of the physical side, but abuse goes beyond that. And she goes on and says, as we celebrate this day, it is my wish that the world will know the importance of the woman to the development of the nation. Interesting messages that we are getting there. This one says, don't women have more friends than men? You don't add your name. I don't really know what your point is. Women having more friends. Okay, I think he's responding to you.
The funds.
The funds bit.
Friends with money.
Didi Dokenu says, Nii, I am all for women empowerment and all that. But the reality is that women and men are not, cannot, and will never be the same. Hence, we cannot expect the same level of treatment, opportunities, etc. The average woman at some point would have to take some time off to have a child. Men don't have to do that. Okay, you're saying that we have different biological rules and that will make us different. But really, how does that affect opportunities is the question that logically follows.
Thank you very much. I agree that we are not the same, but we are equal. We may not be the same because we are different biologically and we have different you know, the way we are created and what we do, that is, it may be different, but we are equal human beings, and we must be given equal opportunities to reach our highest potential.
Right.
And that is all women are asking for.
Okay.
The Bible says, male and female made he the same, quote unquote.
So that is my answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me come to the near side and ask you, really, is it true that women are their own worst enemy? Someone says that when a woman gets into position, you realize it's the women who suffer for it and not the men. And in fact, this is something we hear bandied about all the time. I've actually heard women saying that it's, you know, it's a woman. Yesterday, I can't, without mentioning names, a friend was telling me about two women clashing, and she, a woman, actually said that, oh, you know, it's a normal women's issues. I was like, what do you mean by women's? He said, oh, but if it's two boys, tomorrow you go for lunch together. But the two of them probably will not be speaking to each other for a long time. Are those issues really true?
What happens when men fight? Do we say men are their own enemies? Human beings are bound to disagree at one point or the other and agree at another time. You know, and it is all about this patriarchal thing, you know, patriarchy being entrenched over the years. So most women are not used to seeing a lot of women in decision-making roles. You have only a few of them.
Right.
So when we don't understand why she is there now, like the men, and so on, we tend to like, she's like me, why is she behaving like this or like that?
Okay.
So with a lot more education, and with more of us getting there, we will, you know, some of these statements will be eroded. Men fight each other.
Sure.
They are killing each other in Syria with blows, with guns and things. And nobody comes out with a statement saying that men are their own enemies. When two women just disagree a little, the women are disagreeing. Are they something from space? We are human beings. So I think it is about people understanding that we are bound to disagree with each other. Husband and wife disagree. Men disagree. They fight. They kill each other and so on. So it is not strange when women also do such things. That does not give an excuse to women who go to the extreme to actually maltreat the other one. When the education, or you know, the educational aspect of empowerment and so on is stepped up, people will now begin to learn that, for instance, treat your house help very well.
Okay.
When the man gets on board in the home, the woman's stress is reduced. So she will also not look for the next victim to unleash her stress. You see, so the thing is like from one to the other. The man comes home and all the things are on the woman. So she's also looking for the next person. Now coming to that message we said, we shouldn't distort what God has done and so on. Nobody is disputing the fact that God says the man is the head of the home, or the Bible says the man is the head of the home. The woman is the neck and the body of the home. The head is carried by the neck. You cut off your neck and see if the head will survive. You know, so we are there to complement each other. This is what we're talking about. And all we are saying is that if the woman has the ability, the potential to do something, allow her to do it. And women are proven to be there. In fact, just today we were talking about gender issues within the security sector and so on. And there were several examples of women who have even been able to excel within the security sector, you know. So don't put barriers, sometimes very subtle ones there, that will prevent one person or the other from actually coming out with what he or she has, you know, to contribute to society. And this is what it is all about. Women in the villages, yes, we have all these civil society organizations who are working at different levels, trying to educate people, trying to bring up little economic, you know, programs, entrepreneurship things, trainings, and so on, to make the woman aware that you can go beyond where you are now. You can move a step further, you know, in the way you are farming, in the way you are selling, so that you earn better for a better home where there are men as well. So it is not trying to single out something, but as I'm saying, it's something that will at the end of the day, benefits the whole of society. So it's a societal issue. Okay. It is not a woman's thing. And women are not their own enemies.
We have just a couple of minutes to go. Marian, in a minute, are you able to touch on affirmative action?
Basically, it's got to do with the use of mechanisms to redress historical discriminatory practices, and also to just ensure that various institutions are thoroughly representative of the various makeups.
So what do we need to do in Ghana?
What do we need to do in Ghana?
Do we, and what steps
Definitely
do we take?
women in decision making, in politics, yes. All sectors, everywhere, we need women there. And there are women who are qualified, but then there is the reverse angle, as in, if you have those measures in place, but then the women do not have the skills because they have not been exposed to such situations, obviously, they may not be able to take advantage of those things. So it goes both ways. Okay. When you create those measures, you make sure that you have also empowered them to be able to take advantage of.
Great. Nana Santua, what will be your concluding remarks before we go?
My concluding remarks are that International Women's Day, yes, we are celebrating women, but we must remember that to be able to have the empowered women, we need the support of all. An empowered woman does not only benefit herself, but benefits everybody in the society at large. And so we should celebrate women together, and we should all support it.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
I want to tell our young ones, and especially our young girls, there is so much deposited in them. Ghana needs them. The world needs them. They should take their time. They should learn hard, be patient to make money and get rich. With time, they will get there. The sky is their limit. I wish them all the best.
Francis Kusi Yeboah, Singapore. Of course, you're streaming live around the world. He says, I am glad to watch your program. This is my first time, and I think you're doing a good job for Ghana. I would like to comment on the woman issues. Okay, sometimes you can't get a construction quite well. But you're talking about some of the basic things we all know in life would be hard for us to know without a woman or so. And I do not agree. Okay, and I do not agree with the last comment that the man is the head. Women are unique. Okay, you don't agree, Francis. You don't think that the man is the head. Women are unique. Okay, thank you. And I think that you go on to say that women are leaders. If I can get this back on. Yeah, women are leaders everywhere you look, from the CEO who runs a Fortune 500 company to the housewife who raises her children and heads a household. Our country was built by strong women, and we will continue to break down walls and defy stereotypes. That's coming from a man. So you see what I said. Not all the men are bad, so to speak. No. Thank you for your message from faraway Singapore. Thank you for watching the show. Thank you for sending your messages. And special thanks to Joanna Opari, Executive Director, Gender Planning Consult Limited, Nana Marian Atabo Ahene in the order in which are seated away from me, Deputy Executive Director, ACK Foundation, and Nana Santua Afajinu, Executive Director, West Africa Civil Society Institute. Thank you for coming, ladies.
Thank you.